The Raptors lose to the Orlando Magic 111-96. Welcome to Raptors Tonight. I'm Randy Urban, joined by Paul Jones, Sherman Hamilton, and Eric Smith. Fellas, tough one to watch. If you're a Raptors fan, great. If you're an Orlando Magic fan, they sweep the Raptors in the two games. Sherman, I'll start with you. Why were the Magic able to gain that separation in the third?
Well, I think their defense has a lot to do with it. They're a tough defensive team. There's no questioning how hard they play and how much they're committed on that end of the floor. And again, we saw it in the third quarter. But Paolo Banchero was pretty good in that third quarter with his 14 points. And, we're seeing this team start to take shape. Orlando is starting to figure out they've got this base of a defensive attitude. They're a chippy, aggressive, sometimes a little nasty team, which – if you're an Orlando fan, you love it. If you're any other team, you kind of have to deal with it. And then we're starting to see them figure out their whole pecking order offensively and how they're going about it with Banchero and also Franz Wagner. These two guys are difficult to manage, but this is a team that's on the up. I mean, if we're talking about stocks, Orlando's a team you'd buy some stock in right now.
You're bullish right now, Sherm. Jonesy, what was
Absolutely.
the key stat for you?
Well, I mean, the fact that they had 60 of their 111 in the paint, and I couldn't figure out on Friday why. I mean, you look across the board, they had a size advantage at every position, size and girth advantage at almost every position. And I didn't think they took advantage of that Friday. And then you look at the game tonight, 60 of their 111 in the paint. I mean, there were times when you had Banchero down there in the lane and listen, people watch on TV, but Friday night we got to see the guy close up. He's massive. Like he is a big man at 6'10" and 260. And, he's got these guard-like skills that people maybe have him, they look at him in a different light, like a perimeter guy. But there were times tonight when he would go down inside and he's matched up on Emmanuel quickly on a switch. Or the guy guarding him is Ochai Agbaji, who's 6'5" or 6'6", 215, and Banchero's got half a foot and 40 pounds on him. So if you had to ask me, the key stat was I thought they did a good job of going inside. They shot 50%, and I didn't think they took good threes. They weren't really indiscriminate with them, just taking them because they could. So and to Sherm's point about the defense, they play hard, and they're one of those teams to me that epitomizes the phrase hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. They beat some teams night in and night out in the NBA just by playing harder than them with the skill that they have. They're not overly skilled in some positions, but they play hard, they play within themselves, and they keep coming at you.
Eric, one of the amazing stats I heard in the game was the Magic are now 33-1 when heading into the fourth with the lead. That's not just talent, though. Jamal Mosley has done a great job instilling that kind of confidence in his team.
He really has. And when you're doing it at home overall as well, Randy, you think about this home record for the Magic this season. They've been fantastic on their floor. They just opened up, starting today with this game, an 8-game homestand where they won't be playing on the road until after their game on April 1st. Like, that's wild to have that length of homestand period, let alone this late in the year. And that could really bolster things for them coming down the stretch as they're jockeying for positioning in the Eastern Conference standings. I just think that, to your point about the way they shut things down in the fourth quarter, it goes back and harkens to what Sherman was talking about, I think, about their defense. They're a balanced team on both ends of the floor. They've got a lot of different guys that can beat you. Clearly in this game tonight against the Raptors, they had a major size advantage, big time. And I think it's just a case of the Raptors kind of running out of gas overall, just not having the bodies, period. And it's not to make an excuse, but they are decimated by the injuries right now. They were able to keep up in the first half, as we've seen so much of late, but they just did not have the bodies to be able to muster any kind of legitimate comeback in the second half, let alone, as you talk about, in that fourth specifically, after they had the lead up at 15-17 multiple times.
Hey, Randy, Randy, you made a great point about Jamal Mosley. I'm not sure he gets the credit that he should. If you were to give me a coach of the year ballot, he might get one of my top 5 votes. Another guy look, Mark Dagnall's done a great job in Oklahoma City, Chris Finch in Minnesota. But then you look at the East, and JB Bickerstaff and Jamal Mosley have done a really good job as two guys in the East. And you look at his winning percentage. Jamal Mosley's winning percentage has gone up over 100 percentage points each year that he's been the coach. And they sit right now with a record of what have they got 40 wins, 39 and 28, 40 and 28. He's done a really good job with this team.
Mm-hmm. And Sherm, quickly, didn't have great games against Orlando's defense the last two. What were they doing against him? This is sort of the first time we've seen him kind of struggle since the All-Star break.
Well, in listening to the post-game interview of Paulo Banchero on the TV side, Paulo talked about it. They knew that they needed to stop the Raptors in the transition game, and they knew that Emmanuel quickly was the head of that snake in terms of getting out and really pushing the pace. And they built walls. They got back. They didn't leave gaps in their defense in transition to allow the Raptors to really utilize that to their advantage. Now, they had 16 fast break points, but when the game was in the balance, they were primarily playing 5-on-5 basketball in the half court. And that's how Orlando wants you to play because it's so tough. So they focused and honed in on a fact that the Raptors were the best team in the league in terms of transition. They tried to take that strength away, and to their benefit, it helped them. But they definitely game plan for the transition game of the Raptors.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to Jordan Nwora, Eric. Strong off the bench again. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. Has he showed you that he can be a part of the solution in Toronto?
I think he has. Jonesy and I were chatting about this on our radio broadcast as well. If it's not in Toronto, it's somewhere in the league. Like, this guy has absolutely proven his worth as an NBA player, as a rotation player. I think he's decent defensively, only getting better. I think he's starting to show a little bit more versatility on the offensive end in terms of his ability to make some shots from the perimeter, but also to get into the lane, trying to become a little bit of a playmaker as well. But he can do a lot of different things. I like his energy. I like his hustle. He doesn't seem to back down from guys. He seems to play with a lot of confidence. So I like what Nwora brings. And at this point right now, I guess they're obviously trying to get a little bit of a look to Ramsey on the 10-day and whatnot. But you think about a guy like Javon Freeman-Liberty, who had a solid campaign with 905, and I thought has played well in spurts here this last week or so. We barely saw him on the floor tonight. And why? I think a lot of the reason is Jordan Nwora has really kind of pushed himself forward that much more. And as he's produced, the minutes have gone up. So I like what we're seeing from him. And to me, he's a guy that, credit to him, he's continued to plug away. And I think he's found a home. It's just a matter of, I guess, what's the price tag and what's the ultimate fit when the dust settles on this team come this summer in the direction that management goes.
Mm-hmm. Jonesy, you guys were probably getting set for the Raptors game when this happened, but let's do a little overtime and talk specifically about Dallas beating Denver on a final second Kyrie Irving sort of hook runner, left hand from 15 feet. It was just a crazy shot. Do you believe in the Dallas Mavericks?
First of all, Kyrie Irving is one of the most skilled players in the NBA. There's no question about that. And if you think otherwise, you're not watching the same game as we are. Do I believe in them? Not totally. Not until they can show me that. Listen, this is a Sunday night in March, and it was a win over the defending champs. But the NBA is a league where you got to beat somebody down 4 times. And I just think if Dallas hasn't made doesn't make more of a commitment to trying to stop people or trying to play better defensively consistently, they're going to have trouble. It is a league where scoring reigns, and your offense does keep you in games. But the playoffs are different in that sense. I do like what they've done with the trades for Washington and for Gafford. It's made them a little more defensive minded. It's made them a little tougher. They can play big. I wonder if we'll see Lively and Gafford on the floor together at the same time. But right now, I mean, some of it starts with your best player. And I've got to see more of a commitment on the defensive end from Luka Doncic.
Mm-hmm. Sherm, because of that Denver loss, Oklahoma City inches just ahead of the Denver Nuggets for first place in the Western Conference. Gilgeous-Alexander, we all know, having an MVP caliber season. How far do you see them going in the playoffs?
This is an interesting one. I mean, at some point, you figure that their experience or inexperience would catch up to them in the playoffs. You just don't know when. But what we're seeing right now is a team that's playing with supreme confidence. They're coached well. Shea is that guy. I mean, there's no question about it. This guy, if he's not MVP this year, he will be the MVP of this league at some point. and they've got some nice pieces around him, guys that can impact the game on a different level. Chet Holmgren, listen, we can talk about Victor Wembanyama, and we should, but we got to have a conversation about Chet Holmgren as well. He's skilled. He's very aggressive. He's one of those unicorn players that can do so many things at his size. And I think that this team has balance. And Jalen Williams is a very aggressive, oncoming young player. And I just like their team overall. I just wonder when inexperience is going to catch up to them in the depths of a playoff run.
Mm-hmm. Eric, about a minute left. Your questions about the Boston Celtics. They scored another
I
130
ask
points.
me who's the MVP, Randy. I thought
No.
Denver to OKC. All right, go ahead.
Shea.
Yeah, Jonesy loves the defense. But Eric, real quick, is there anybody in the Eastern Conference that can give Boston, a tough series?
Short answer is yes. Longer answer is who is it? Because the one thing, this is to me what scares me about Boston, as good as they are, is the 3-point shooting that they take. Is that going to eventually come back to bite them come playoff time in terms of like put them up? And if they're going down, great. But if they're not dropping, not that they still don't have other guys that can do other things and that like talent through the board, but is that style going to work, or are they going to have to adjust come postseason? So whether it's Philly, whether it's Miami, whether it's Milwaukee, I think Boston is beatable come playoff time. Again, if suddenly shots aren't falling and they're forced to maybe play outside of what has made them so dominant on so many nights in this regular season.
Mm-hmm. Great stuff, guys. Next game for the Raptors, Wednesday versus the Sacramento Kings. Tip-off goes at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget, after the game, come on by Real Sports. Be a part of the show. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.